The chill of the Halloween night sent shivers down my spine as I made my way through the dense, shadowy woods. The moon cast an eerie glow, its pale light flickering through the twisted branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to grab me. I had always been drawn to the thrill of this spooky holiday, but little did I know that this Halloween would be unlike any other. I had recently moved to a small, isolated town nestled in the heart of the woods. The locals had warned me about the legends that surrounded these woods, tales of restless spirits and ancient curses, but I dismissed them as mere superstitions until that fateful night. I had decided to venture into the woods, ignoring the advice of the townsfolk who had cautioned me against it. They spoke of strange happenings, of people who had entered the woods and never returned, but I was young and curious, and I couldn't resist the lure of adventure. As I walked deeper into the woods, the trees seemed to close in around me, their twisted branches creating a labyrinth of shadows. The rustling leaves and hooting owls added to the eerie ambiance, and I couldn't help but quicken my pace. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a clearing in the woods. In the center of the clearing stood an old, decrepit cabin, its windows shattered and its roof sagging. It looked as though it had been abandoned for centuries. My heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement as I approached the cabin, drawn to its eerie presence. The door of the cabin creaked open as if by its own accord, and a musty, damp odor wafted out, assaulting my senses. I hesitated at the threshold, my breath visible in the cold night air. Something inside me urged me to step inside, to explore the secrets that lay within. As I entered the cabin, the dim moonlight filtered through the broken windows, casting eerie patterns on the rotting floorboards. The air inside was heavy with a sense of foreboding, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I cautiously explored the interior, my footsteps echoing in the silence. It was as if time had stood still in this place. Old, faded photographs adorned the walls, depicting a family that had once lived here. Their eyes seemed to follow me, and their smiles looked more like grimaces. In the corner of one room, I discovered an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. It belonged to a man named Ezekiel, who had been the last occupant of the cabin. His words spoke of strange occurrences in the woods, of whispers in the night and figures in the shadows. He wrote of a curse that had befallen him and his family, a curse that bound them to this cabin for all eternity. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the journal, even as I heard faint whispers in the room. They grew louder, more insistent, as if the very walls were trying to communicate with me. "Leave this place," they hissed, "before it's too late." But I couldn't heed their warning. The cabin had ensnared me, and I needed to uncover the truth. I continued to read Ezekiel's journal, learning of his desperate attempts to break the curse, all of which had failed. As I read his final entries, I realized that he had disappeared without a trace, just like so many others who had ventured into the woods. Suddenly, the room grew impossibly cold, and I saw my own breath in front of me. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the whispers became deafening. I knew I had to leave, but it was too late. A shadowy figure materialized before me, its eyes hollow and its form shifting like smoke. It was Ezekiel, the man from the journal, trapped between this world and the next. He reached out a ghostly hand, his voice a desperate plea. "Help us break the curse." I tried to run, to escape the cabin, but an invisible force held me in place. The walls closed in around me, and the whispers became a cacophony of torment. I knew then that I was doomed, trapped in this cursed cabin, just like Ezekiel and his family. As the night wore on, I could feel the presence of other trapped souls, their anguish filling the cabin. The curse had claimed me, and there was no escape. Halloween had taken on a whole new meaning, one of eternal horror and despair. As dawn broke, the cabin returned to its eerie silence, its secrets hidden once more. My cries for help went unanswered, and I knew that I would never leave this cursed place. Halloween had become my own personal nightmare, one from which I would never awaken. Halloween night had always been a favorite of mine, but this year, the atmosphere felt different, as though the very air was thick with anticipation and dread. I had recently moved to a quaint, seemingly peaceful town named Willowbrook. The town was known for its charming cottages, friendly neighbors, and an annual Halloween festival that attracted visitors from miles around. But something had drawn me here, something beyond the surface charm, and it wasn't long before I would come face to face with the town's dark secret. The night was colder than I had anticipated, and I pulled my coat tighter around me as I ventured deeper into the woods. My curiosity had gotten the better of me, and I was following a rumor, a tale of an old, abandoned house that was said to be haunted. It was the kind of spooky story that always intrigued me, and I couldn't resist the temptation to explore. After what felt like an eternity of walking through the dense forest, I finally stumbled upon the house. It was a decrepit mansion with vines snaking up its walls, windows long shattered, and a front door that hung off its hinges. The place looked like it hadn't seen a living soul in decades. As I approached, the wind whispered eerie secrets in my ear, and the sense of foreboding grew stronger. I hesitated for a moment but couldn't resist the pull of the unknown. The door creaked open at my touch, as if inviting me in. The interior of the mansion was shrouded in darkness, and the air was heavy with an ancient mustiness. I fumbled for my flashlight, and its feeble beam revealed decaying wallpaper, broken furniture, and dust-covered relics of a bygone era. The place felt frozen in time, as if its very walls held the memories of long-forgotten residents. I ventured further into the mansion, my heart pounding with each step. The whispers of the wind outside seemed to have followed me in, growing louder and more insistent. It was as if the house itself was trying to communicate with me, to tell me its secrets. As I climbed the creaking staircase to the upper floors, I heard faint footsteps echoing through the hallway above. My breath caught in my throat, and I stilled, listening intently. The footsteps grew closer, their rhythm irregular and unsettling. I followed the sound to a door at the end of the hall. With trembling hands, I pushed it open, revealing a room bathed in an eerie blue light. In the center of the room, a circle had been drawn on the floor, surrounded by candles. Symbols I couldn't recognize were etched into the walls. My heart raced as I realized I had stumbled upon something far more sinister than a mere abandoned house. This was the site of a ritual, a dark ceremony that defied the natural order. The air grew colder, and the room seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room, chilling me to the bone. "You shouldn't have come here," it whispered, a ghostly presence in the air. I spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but there was no one to be seen. The room began to warp and shift, its walls contorting in unnatural ways. I felt a sense of dread like I had never experienced before. It was as if the very foundations of reality were crumbling around me. I stumbled back into the hallway, desperate to escape the nightmare unfolding before me. But the house seemed to have other plans. The walls closed in on me, the hallway stretching endlessly in both directions. I was trapped, a helpless pawn in a malevolent game. The voice returned, now louder and more sinister. "You will never leave," it taunted, its words echoing through the endless hallway. Panic welled up inside me, and I ran, my footsteps echoing in the infinite darkness. Time lost all meaning as I ran through that nightmarish corridor. The air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in on me, suffocating me with their malevolence. I knew then that I was not alone in this house. I was surrounded by forces beyond my comprehension. As the hours passed, I felt myself growing weaker, my resolve slipping away. The house had claimed me, body and soul, and there was no escape. I had become a part of the darkness that had consumed Willowbrook. As Halloween dawned, I found myself back outside the mansion, my body battered and my mind shattered. The sun was rising, and the world seemed to return to normal. But I knew the truth. I had been to the other side, and it had left its mark on me. As I stumbled away from the mansion, I couldn't help but look back one last time. The old house stood silent and foreboding, its secrets hidden once more. Halloween had come and gone, but the horrors I had witnessed would haunt me forever, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved. I had recently moved to this small, quiet town. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and Halloween was the highlight of the year. But tonight, I was about to discover that this town held secrets darker than any I could have imagined. I decided to take a leisurely stroll through the neighborhood, taking in the elaborate decorations and the children in their costumes, eager for candy. The houses were adorned with cobwebs, jack-o'-lanterns, and fake skeletons, but one house stood out from the rest. It was an old Victorian mansion at the end of the street, long abandoned and shrouded in legends of hauntings and disappearances. As I approached the imposing mansion, an unsettling feeling washed over me. The moonlight danced on its decaying facade, making it appear even more menacing. I hesitated for a moment, but was drawn to its eerie allure, like a moth to a flame. The door creaked open as if inviting me in. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside, and the musty smell of old books and decay filled my nostrils. The darkness was suffocating, and I fumbled for my phone to use its dim light to guide me. Dusty cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and ancient portraits of stern-looking people lined the walls. I made my way through the dimly lit hallway, my heart pounding with every step. The air grew colder, and strange whispers echoed in my ears. It was as if the very walls were whispering secrets I was not meant to hear. I entered a room filled with books, their spines cracked and yellowed with age. As I scanned the titles, one in particular caught my eye: The Curse of the Hollow Heart. It was a thick tome bound in cracked leather, and it looked as if it hadn't been touched in centuries. My curiosity got the better of me, and I pulled it from the shelf, flipping through its pages. The book told of a dark ritual that took place in the very house I now stood in. It spoke of a curse that bound the souls of those who dared to enter, trapping them in eternal torment. My heart raced as I realized the truth. I was not alone in this house. A cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing my phone's light. Panic set in as I fumbled to relight it, but before I could, I heard a disembodied voice whispering in my ear. "You shouldn't have come here." I spun around, my heart in my throat, but there was no one there. The room seemed to close in on me, and the walls began to shift and change, revealing hidden passages and secret doors. I stumbled into a dark corridor, unsure of where it would lead. As I ventured deeper into the labyrinthine depths of the mansion, I heard more voices, each one more chilling than the last. They spoke of regret, of lost souls, and of the curse that bound them to this wretched place. I realized I was not alone. The spirits of the past were all around me, their torment palpable in the air. Suddenly, a ghostly figure materialized before me. It was a woman, her eyes hollow and her skin as pale as death. She reached out a spectral hand and whispered, "Help us." I wanted to run, to escape this nightmare, but I couldn't. I had unwittingly become a part of this cursed house, and there was no way out. The walls continued to shift, leading me deeper into the darkness. I finally reached a room bathed in an otherworldly blue light. In the center of the room, a pentagram was etched into the floor, surrounded by candles. I knew that this was the source of the curse, the place where the dark ritual had taken place. As I approached the pentagram, the candles flickered to life, and the room seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. The spirits of the past swirled around me, their anguished cries filling my ears. I knew what I had to do. With trembling hands, I recited the incantation from the cursed book, hoping that it would break the curse and free the trapped souls. The air grew heavy with anticipation, and the room trembled with dark energy. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the room, and I felt a searing pain in my chest. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The room seemed to implode, and the world around me disintegrated into darkness. When I awoke, I was back outside the mansion, lying in the cold grass. The moon had disappeared, and dawn was breaking. The mansion stood silent and foreboding, its secrets hidden once more. I stumbled to my feet, my body aching and my mind reeling from the horrors I had witnessed. The curse had been broken, but at a terrible cost. I knew that I could never truly escape the darkness that had taken hold of me that Halloween night. Halloween had come and gone, but the nightmares would never end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.